Renting cars on Turo can be a great way to get started with a rental car company, but one trend that I've been noticing a lot over the last few years have been people who've left Turo, cut out the middleman, and have been renting cars directly to their customers. So in the case of Turo, this would be cutting out Turo entirely and instead just simply finding your own guests and renting directly to them. In these types of instances, you would have to provide your own insurance, you'd have to do your own marketing, find your own customers, and you would have to handle all of your own paperwork and payments. None of that gets done by anyone other than you. But in exchange for all of that additional work, you get to keep 100% of the profit. So no more 80-20, 70-30, or 90-10 plans that you have with Turo. And truthfully, this kind of becomes a scenario where you no longer have to play the game defined by Turo and you can sort of make your own rules with your own game. And I get asked all the time if direct rentals is something that I would ever consider or something that I currently do. And so in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down why I don't do direct rentals and why I don't have plans to do it anytime in the future, as well as some of the things that you should be keeping in mind if this is a route that you're looking to pursue yourself. So let's get started. For many hosts, the idea of renting direct is the next big step from renting cars directly on Turo. It's kind of that next big leap that a business owner will take if they want to take their business to the next level. And this is for many of the reasons that I just mentioned a moment ago. You control the cars that you rent, you control the terms, the customers, and you keep 100% of the profit. But when it comes to doing direct rentals, rather than renting through a platform like Turo, there are very clear pros and cons to this business model. First, let's talk over the pros. Number one is that you can rent any car you want. You no longer have to abide by Turo's guidelines, and you can take your own discretion on which types of vehicles you think would do best with your business model and your market. Number two, you can do and charge anything you want. Do you want to charge a $300 smoking fee? Well, with direct rentals, you can technically do that as long as it's outlined in your rental agreement. And of course, the third pro is you keep all of the income, 100% of it. So no longer having to split it with Turo and no longer having to deal with Turo fees jacking up the total price of your rental for your guest. But of course, with any business model, there are also cons to this as well. And these include customer vetting is 100% on you. So you no longer can rely on the fact that Turo has done at least a surface level vet of each customer that rents one of your cars. You're going to have to do that on your own. So you're going to want to check things to make sure, number one, they have a valid driver's license. Where do they live? Where do they potentially work? What's their credit score, their driving record? Do they have a criminal history? These are just a few of the things that you'll want to keep in mind. And it's really on the responsibility of you to gather that information so that you can make sure that you know exactly who's renting out your vehicles. Number two is the burden of collecting payment is also on you. And that isn't just the actual trip price for the vehicle that's being rented, but it's also additional fees as well. For example, smoking fees, cleaning fees, gas, even tolls. Collecting all of these payments is something that you're going to have to be responsible for, and this can be a bit tricky. And of course, insurance. Because of the fact that you no longer have Turo as that protection and that safety net, you're going to have to make sure that you have the proper insurance coverage to not only cover your vehicles, but also your business in case something bad happens. And of course, without Turo, you don't get their app, their marketing, etc. Now, to answer the question of do I do direct rentals, the answer is no. But is it something that I've considered in the past? Of course. I think most Turo hosts that are looking to scale and grow their fleet have probably considered direct rentals at some point in time. In fact, I very heavily looked at doing it this past summer, so this topic is pretty fresh and top of mind for me. Now, for me, direct rentals is something that I am at this point in time not interested in doing. And truthfully, I don't really see myself ever doing it unless something with my schedule and my goals change dramatically in the next few years. But let me explain why. Now, I understand the appeal of direct rentals, and as I'm going through why I've decided that this isn't a viable path for me, keep in mind that this is my personal opinion. I know that there are a lot of hosts out there that have had success with this business model, and rental car companies are a multi-billion-dollar per year industry, so of course this is a viable industry if you can find a way to make it work for yourself. These are just my own personal opinions that apply to my own personal fleet, life, and goals. But with that in mind, I do also think that some newer hosts jump into direct rentals a bit too soon, and I am going to explain that in this video as well. Whenever you go from Turo to direct rentals, the legal liability alone becomes substantially larger. And I do worry that some newer hosts are attracted to direct rentals because of the sexiness of the business model, that they end up going this route and taking this leap without really diving into the legal liabilities associated with it and everything that they need to do in order to make sure that their bases are totally covered. Now, I tend to be really risk adverse whenever it comes to things like debt and lawsuit, especially debt with depreciating assets like cars. It's one of the reasons why I buy all of my cars in cash. And I've become even more risk adverse with these two things as I've gotten older. And so whenever it comes to talking about things like legal liability, lawsuits, and risk, it's something that I'm extremely cautious to talk about, not only with people one-on-one, but even more so here on the internet, on YouTube when I make videos. But truthfully, the legal liability associated with direct rentals is definitely my biggest concern associated with this industry. But as far as why I've considered direct rentals, but ultimately have come to the conclusion that this isn't a business model for me, there are a few reasons why. Many of the insurance companies that I looked at, in order to insure me for a direct rental business, they actually require a brick and mortar space for all of their insured parties, which is something that I don't have. We rent a commercial parking lot. We don't have a brick and mortar space or office or garage on that lot. And we do all of our work out of our house. And so because of that, we don't have a brick and mortar address or a brick and mortar space that our business is registered to. And for that reason, a lot of insurance companies wouldn't even allow for us to apply because we wouldn't be eligible. This basically left us with one company that was willing to insure us if we wanted to, and it wasn't a company that I really loved. The cost of insuring cars for direct rentals would also be substantially more expensive. The way that we have our cars insured today, we do it through ABI Period X, and we only carry liability on all of our cars because of the fact that we don't drive our cars for personal use. In fact, we very rarely drive them at all, and they are affordable cash cars that if something were to happen, we could just fix it in-house, and we don't need that comprehensive side of the coverage. Because of this, our insurance on a per-car basis is incredibly cheap. It's about $50 per month, and if we were to do direct rentals, we would need more robust coverage for not only our vehicles, but also for our entire business as well. And whenever we crunch the numbers of this, it would more than double our current insurance costs. But truthfully, the biggest nail in the coffin for us was the term of rentals that our insurance company would require. Whenever HP and I were discussing the idea of experimenting with direct rentals with a couple of cars to see if this was a business model that we would like to pursue, one of the things that we knew we wanted to do was to do extended rentals, so long-term rentals of 30 days or more. This is because with Turo, we have a ton of different guests who book our cars out for an extremely long period of time. In fact, as I sit here recording this video, we have 2 different cars that have been out on extended rentals of 4 months or longer. So in our head, we were thinking, okay, we can buy these low-end to mid-tier economy cars, we can find extended renters to rent them, and we could operate a business that way that's completely separate from our Turo fleet. But we knew that we wanted to do these long-term rentals because we didn't want to have to deal with the messages, the contracts, the key exchanges, or the communication that comes along with shorter few-day or few-week rentals. But whenever we told this idea to the insurance company that we were talking to, they actually told us that the maximum number of days that they will allow for policyholders to rent their cars out is 30 days, and that every 30 days a new contract has to be drawn out. This is because in the world of rental cars, after 30 days, it could technically be considered a lease, not a rental. And for this reason, the insurance company that we were in talks with does not allow for more than 30-day rentals at a time. So this kind of completely threw a wrench into our own plans. Ultimately, because of all of these different reasons, HP and I decided that direct rentals wasn't a business model that was for us. And while there are a lot of different reasons as to why we've decided to just stay 100% with Turo and not even experiment with direct rentals, the main reason ultimately does come down to time. At this point, HP and I really don't have a ton of time, and whenever we look at ways that we can spend our time on a weekly basis, we want to make sure that that time is giving us the best ROI. And whenever it came to direct rentals, we had to look at it through the lens of, will this new business model, will it create enough ROI to justify the time that we're going to have to spend on it? And will it make that much more than our Turo vehicles in order to justify the increased amount of time? And whenever we dove into that question and tried to find the answer was a resounding no. It just wasn't worth it. For me personally, and I know that many of you watching this may or may not agree, but I really value what Turo provides. I value the marketing, the insurance, the coverage, the support, the marketing, the platform, the communication. Everything about Turo is something that I personally find value in. And if I was somebody who wanted to create the next Budget, Hertz, or Avis rental car company, maybe going to direct would be something that I would be more attracted to. But that's just not my end goal with Turo, and it never has been. And so for that reason, I just don't really see the appeal of going to direct. And instead, I would rather continue to grow my fleet in the way in which I've been growing it, where I make a lot of money, and then use my extra time to start new businesses or invest in other projects. And so for all of these reasons, I will not be going direct anytime in the foreseeable future. But if you are somebody who is looking at going direct and this is something that you're wanting to explore, here are a few things that you should be keeping in mind. Number one is to talk to a lawyer. Now, lawyers in general aren't really pro Turo. In fact, I would say that most lawyers are pretty skeptical about car sharing in general. But I would find a lawyer that either has experience in car sharing, rental cars, or insurance, preferably car sharing. But most likely you'll have to settle with either rental cars or insurance. And you should pick their brain as to what you should do, what T's you should cross and I's you should dot to make sure that your direct rental company is set properly and that you aren't leaving anything uncovered. To get whatever coverage the lawyer advises, I would imagine that this would involve coverage for not only the individual vehicles, but also for your company as a whole, like some sort of umbrella policy. Insurance is not something that you'll want to skimp on, and you will want to make sure that you have the proper coverage to protect you in case something bad happens. Number three, and this is advice from not a lawyer because I'm just a YouTuber, but make sure that before you actually start your direct rental car business, that you have everything between your LLC and your personal life completely separate. Because when it comes to the protection of the LLC, you do not want to do anything that could potentially pierce that in the case of a lawsuit. So making sure cars are in your business name, your bank accounts, credit cards, everything is separate. This is very important. And four, make sure that you have a game plan in place. How are you going to market your cars? How are you going to insure them? How are you going to communicate with your guests? What's going to be a method that you use in case something does go wrong? Because you're not going to have Turo roadside. What type of rental agreement are you going to do? How are you going to do key exchanges? These are all questions that are going to have to be answered if this is a route that you want to pursue. And lastly, I would do a deep dive and exactly figure out how much are you making with Turo versus how much could you potentially make going direct. Because I did mention earlier that I feel as though some newer hosts jump into direct rentals a bit too soon, but I also worry that if hosts aren't paying attention to their financials properly, going direct may actually end up costing you more money in the long run if you're not paying attention to your finances closely. But there you have it, my thoughts on direct rentals. Of course, this is a business model that works, or else you wouldn't see Hertz, Avis, or Budget doing it. But I think like many things, this is also a business model that is a little harder than it looks. But if you are somebody who is wanting to do direct rentals, I would make sure to do enough research, talk to a lawyer, and develop a proper game plan. Like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.